Jiddu Krishnamurti, The Only Revolution. Part 1. Meditation is not an escape from the world. It is not an isolating, self-enclosing activity, but rather the comprehension of the world and its ways. The world has little to offer apart from food, clothes and shelter, and pleasure with its great sorrows. Meditation is wandering away from this world. One has to be a total outsider. Then the world has a meaning, and the beauty of the heavens and the earth is constant. Then love is not pleasure. From this, all action begins that is not the outcome of tension, contradiction, the search for self-fulfillment, or the conceit of power. To one who denies totally and completely the acceptance of the word, the symbol with its conditioning, to them, truth is not a second-hand affair. Any acceptance of authority is the very denial of truth, and one must be outside of all culture, tradition, and social morality. One must deny the past, its teachers, its interpreters, its theories, and its formulas. Truth is never in the past. The truth of the past is the ashes of memory. Memory is of time. And in the dead ashes of yesterday, there is no truth. Truth is a living thing, not within the field of time. If you do not postulate any dogma, then you are face to face with what actually is. The what is thought, pleasure, sorrow, and the fear of death. When you understand the structure of your daily living, with its competition, greed, ambition, and the search for power, then you will see not only the absurdity of theories, saviours and gurus, but you may find an ending to sorrow, an ending to the whole structure which thought has put together. The penetration into and the understanding of this structure is meditation. Then you will see that the world is not an illusion, but a terrible reality which humans, in relationship with each other, have constructed. It is this which has to be understood, and not theories of religion with the rituals and all the paraphernalia of organised religion. When one is free, without any motive of fear, of envy, or of sorrow, then only is the mind naturally peaceful and still. Then it can see not only the truth in daily life from moment to moment, but also go beyond all perception. And therefore, there is the ending of the observer and the observed, and duality ceases. But beyond all this, and not related to this struggle, this vanity and despair, there is, and this is not a theory, a stream that has no beginning and no end, a measureless movement that the mind can never capture. When you see all this, and when you come upon that benediction called love, then you will know the truth of what is being said. What is important in meditation is the quality of the mind and the heart. It is not what you achieve or what you say you attain, but rather the quality of a mind that is innocent and vulnerable. Through negation, there is the positive state. Merely to gather or to live in experience denies the purity of meditation. Meditation is not a means to an end. It is both the means and the end. The mind can never be made innocent through experience. It is the negation of experience that brings about that positive state of innocency, which cannot be cultivated by thought. Thought is never innocent. Meditation is the ending of thought, not by the meditator, for the meditator is the meditation. If there is no meditation, then you are like a blind man in a world of great beauty, light and colour. Wander by the seashore and let this meditative quality come upon you. If it does, don't pursue it. What you pursue will be the memory of what it was. And what was is the death of what is. Or when you wander among the hills, let everything tell you the beauty and the pain of life, so that you awaken to your own sorrow and to the ending of it. Meditation is the root, the plant, the flower, and the fruit. It is words that divide the fruit, the flower, the plant, and the root. In this separation, action does not bring about goodness. Virtue is the total perception. You can't find God. There is no way to it. Man has invented many paths, many religions, many beliefs, saviours and teachers, whom he thinks will help him to find the bliss that is not passing. The misery of search is that it leads to some fancy of the mind, to some vision which the mind has projected and measured by things known. The love which one seeks is destroyed by the way of one's life. You cannot have a gun in one hand and God in the other. God is only a symbol, a word that has really lost its meaning, for the churches and places of worship have destroyed it. Of course, if you don't believe in God, you, like the believer, both suffer and go through the sorrow of a short and vain life. And the bitterness of every day makes life a meaningless thing. Reality is not at the end of the stream of thought, and the empty heart is filled by the words of thought. We become very clever, inventing new philosophies, and then there is the bitterness of their failure. We have invented theories about how to reach the ultimate, and the devotee goes to the temple and loses themselves in the imaginations of their own mind. The monk and the saint do not find that reality, for both are part of a tradition, of a culture that accepts them as being saints and monks. Meditation is not the repetition of the word, nor the experiencing of a vision, nor the cultivating of silence. The bead and the word do quieten the chattering mind, but this is a form of self-hypnosis. You might as well take a pill. Meditation is not wrapping yourself in a pattern of thought, in the enchantment of pleasure. Meditation has no beginning, and therefore it has no end. If you say, "I will begin today to control my thoughts, to sit quietly in the meditative posture, to breathe regularly," then you are caught in the tricks with which one deceives oneself. Meditation is not a matter of being absorbed in some grandiose idea or image that only quietens one for the moment, as a child absorbed by a toy is for the time being quiet. But as soon as the toy ceases to be of interest, the restlessness and the mischief begin again. Meditation is not the pursuit of an invisible path leading to some imagined bliss. The meditative mind is seeing, watching, listening, without the word, without comment, without opinion, attentive to the movement of life in all its relationships throughout the day. And at night, when the whole organism is at rest, the meditative mind has no dreams, for it has been awake all day. It is only the indolent who have dreams, only the half asleep who need the intimation of their own states. But as the mind watches, listens to the movement of life, the outer and the inner, to such a mind comes a silence that is not put together by thought. It is not a silence which the observer can experience. If they do experience it and recognize it, it is no longer silence. The silence of the meditative mind is not within the borders of recognition. For this silence has no frontier. There is only silence in which the space of division ceases. Meditation is the unfolding of the new. The new is beyond and above the repetitious past. And meditation is the ending of this repetition. The death that meditation brings about is the immortality of the new. The new is not within the area of thought, and meditation is a silence of thought. Meditation is not an achievement, nor is it the capture of a vision, nor the excitement of sensation. It is like a river, not to be tamed, swiftly running and overflowing its banks. It is the music without sound. It cannot be domesticated and made use of. It is a silence in which the observer has ceased from the very beginning. Silence has many qualities. There is a silence between two noises, the silence between two notes, and the widening silence in the interval between two thoughts. There is that peculiar, quiet, pervading silence that comes of an evening in the country. There is a silence through which you hear the bark of a dog in the distance, or the whistle of a train as it comes up a steep grade. The silence in a house when everybody has gone to sleep. And its peculiar emphasis when you wake up in the middle of the night and listen to an owl hooting in the valley. And there is that silence before the owl's mate answers. There is a silence of an old deserted house, and the silence of a mountain, the silence between two human beings when they have seen the same thing. felt the same thing and acted. That night, particularly in that distant valley with the most ancient hills with their peculiar shaped boulders, the silence was as real as the wall you touched. And you looked out of the window at the brilliant stars. It was not a self-generated silence. It was not that the earth was quiet and the villagers were asleep, but it came from everywhere, from the distant stars, from those dark hills, and from your own mind and heart. This silence seemed to cover everything, from the tiniest grain of sand in the riverbed, which only knew running water when it rained, to the tall spreading banyan tree and a slight breeze that was now beginning. There is a silence of the mind which is never touched by any noise, by any thought, or by the passing wind of experience. It is this silence that is innocent and so endless. When there is this silence of the mind, action springs from it. And this action does not cause confusion or misery. The meditation of a mind that is utterly silent is the benediction that humans are ever seeking. In this silence, every quality of silence is. There is that strange silence that exists in a temple or in an empty church deep in the country, without the noise of tourists and worshippers. And the heavy silence that lies on water is part of that which is outside the silence of the mind. The meditative mind contains all these varieties, changes, and movements of silence. The silence of the mind is the true religious mind, and the silence of the gods is the silence of the earth. The meditative mind flows in this silence, and love is the way of this mind. In this silence, there is bliss and laughter. Has it ever happened to you naturally to find yourself in a state where thought is totally absent? In that state, are you conscious of yourself as the thinker, the observer, the experiencer? Thought is the response of memory, and the bundle of memories is the thinker. When there is no thought, is there the me at all, about whom we make so much fuss and noise? We are not talking of a person in amnesia, or of one who is daydreaming or controlling thought to silence it, but of a mind that is fully awake, fully alert. If there is no thought and no word, isn't the mind in a different dimension altogether? You have to come back to the question of something that is timeless, which is beyond thought. What is beyond thought is innocence. And thought, do what it will, can never touch it. For thought is always old. It is innocency, like love, that is deathless. But for that to exist, the mind must be free of the 1,000 yesterdays with their memories. And freedom is a state in which there is no hate, no violence, no brutality. Without putting away all these things, how can we ask what immortality is, what love is, what truth is? If you set out to meditate, it will not be meditation. If you set out to be good, goodness will never flower. If you cultivate humility, it ceases to be. Meditation is like the breeze that comes in when you leave the window open. But if you deliberately keep it open, deliberately invite it to come, it will never appear. Meditation is not the way of thought, for thought is cunning, with infinite possibilities of self-deception. And so it will miss the way of meditation. Like love, it cannot be pursued. To see the truth, you must be free from all authority, tradition, fear, and thought with its cunning words. Truth is not in some far distant place. It is in the looking at what is. To see oneself as one is, in that awareness into which choice does not enter, is the beginning and end of all search. Thought cannot conceive or formulate to itself the nature of space. Whatever it formulates has within it the limitation of its own boundaries. This is not the space which meditation comes upon. Thought has always a horizon. The meditative mind has no horizon. The mind cannot go from the limited to the immense, nor can it transform the limited into the limitless. The one has to cease for the other to be. Meditation is opening the door into spaciousness, which cannot be imagined or speculated upon. Thought is the centre round which there is the space of idea, and this space can be expanded by further ideas. But such expansion through stimulation in any form is not the spaciousness in which there is no centre. Meditation is the understanding of this centre, and so going beyond it. Silence and spaciousness go together. The immensity of silence is the immensity of the mind in which a centre does not exist. The perception of this space and silence is not of thought. Thought can perceive only its own projection, and the recognition of it is its own frontier. Austerity in self-abandonment is beauty. Without austerity, there is no love. And without self-abandonment, beauty has no reality. We mean by austerity not the harsh discipline of the saint or of the monk, with their proud self-denial, or the discipline which gives them power and recognition. That is not austerity. Austerity is not harsh, not a disciplined assertion of self-importance. It is not the denial of comfort, or vows of poverty, or celibacy. Austerity is a summation of intelligence. This austerity can be only when there is self-abandonment, and it cannot be through will, through choice, through deliberate intent. It is the act of beauty that abandons, and it is love that brings the deep inward clarity of austerity. Beauty is this love, in which measurement has come to an end. Then this love, do what it will, is beauty. The doing is not separate from what is. It is the separation that brings conflict and ugliness. When there is not this separation, then living itself is the act of love. The deep inward simplicity of austerity makes for a life that has no duality. This is the journey the mind has to take to come upon this beauty without the word. This journey is meditation. Meditation is hard work. It demands the highest form of discipline, not conformity, not imitation, not obedience, but a discipline which comes through constant awareness, not only of the things about you outwardly, but also inwardly. So meditation is not an activity of isolation, but action in everyday life, which demands cooperation, sensitivity, and intelligence. Without laying the foundation of a righteous life, meditation becomes an escape and therefore has no value whatsoever. A righteous life is not the following of social morality, but the freedom from envy, greed, and the search for power, which all breed enmity. The freedom from these does not come through the activity of will, but through being aware of them through self-knowing. Without knowing the activities of the self, meditation becomes sensuous excitement and therefore of very little significance. Cooperation is necessary in order to live at all. And there is no cooperation with the follower or with the guru. The guru destroys the disciple, and the disciple destroys the guru. In this relationship of the teacher and the taught, how can there be cooperation, the working together, the inquiring together, taking the journey together? This hierarchical division, which is part of the social structure, whether it be in the religious field or in the army or the business world, is essentially worldly. And when one renounces the world, one is caught in the worldliness. Unworldliness is not the loincloth, or one meal a day, or repeating some meaningless though stimulating mantra or phrase. It is worldliness when you give up the world and are inwardly part of that world of envy, greed, fear, of accepting authority and the division between the one who knows and the one who doesn't know. It is still worldliness when you seek achievement, whether it be fame or the achievement of what one may call the ideal, or God, or what you will. It is the accepted tradition of the culture that is essentially worldly, and withdrawing into a mountain far from people does not absolve this worldliness. Reality under no circumstances lies in that direction. One must be alone, but this aloneness is not isolation. This aloneness implies freedom from the world of greed, hate, and violence, with all its subtle ways, and from aching loneliness and despair. To be alone is to be an outsider who does not belong to any religion or nation, to any belief or dogma. It is this aloneness that comes upon an innocency that has never been touched by the mischief of people. It is innocency that can live in the world with all its turmoil and yet not be of it. It is not clothed in any particular garb. The flowering of goodness does not lie along any path, for there is no path to truth. Do not think that meditation is a continuance and an expansion of experience. In experience there is always the witness, and they are ever tied to the past. Meditation, on the contrary, is at complete inaction, which is the ending of all experience. The action of experience has its roots in the past, and so it is time-binding. It leads to action which is inaction and brings disorder. Meditation is the total inaction which comes out of a mind that sees what is, without the entanglement of the past. This action is not a response to any challenge, but is the action of the challenge itself, in which there is no duality. Meditation is the emptying of experience and is going on all the time, consciously or unconsciously. So it is not an action limited to a certain period during the day. It is a continuous action from morning till night, the watching without the watcher. Therefore, there is no division between the daily life and meditation, the religious life and the secular life. The division comes only when the watcher is tied to time. In this division, there is disarray, misery, and confusion, which is the state of society. So meditation is not individualistic, nor is it social. It transcends both, and so includes both. This is love. The flowering of love is meditation. is there something other than pleasure, pain, happiness and sorrow? Is there a bliss, an ecstasy that is not touched by thought? For thought is very trivial, and there is nothing original about it. In asking this question, thought must abandon itself. When thought abandons itself, there is the discipline of the abandonment, which becomes the grace of austerity. Then austerity is not harsh and brutal. Harsh austerity is the product of thought as a revulsion against pleasure and indulgence. From this deep self-abandonment, which is thought abandoning itself, for it sees clearly its own danger, the whole structure of the mind becomes quiet. It is really a state of pure attention, and out of this comes a bliss, an ecstasy that cannot be put into words. When it is put into words, it is not the real.